Hi everybody, it's Annette from The Art of Intuition, and today we are going to talk about looking at our cycles. Actually probably is going to lead people to a different place than where we're going. Not that cycle. We're looking at our cycle patterns. I don't know, maybe I should cut that out. I'll probably leave it in. Probably leave it in because I don't ever cut anything out. We're going to look at our cycles, how long it takes us to move through a program, and how long the deeper ones can take. And looking back through even our human experience, you'll start to see a linear time pattern. And I don't like to use linear time because when I use linear time, it can kind of take people into more of a linear mind. But there are some times when we have to look at different patterns, so we don't expect things to happen overnight. And there's a lot about consciousness. There's a lot of, I don't want to call them misconceptions, because the people putting out a lot of the stuff just haven't done certain parts of the journey yet. So they're putting out what they know now, but maybe they might change their mind about how they feel about something 3 years from now. I know a lot of videos I put out, 3 years ago, I probably do them differently now, but I leave them up because someone in that space will benefit from that video. Even though now I would probably say that's probably not the whole picture. But in the time I did it, it was my whole picture. But I'd probably do it differently now. So one thing you're going to find is the more you expand your consciousness, you clear out old programming. And what is the best for me to really clear out old programming is just to vent it out. I usually do it when I'm by myself, because normally I'm by myself. I will just get pissed, yell, scream, use foul language, and just bitch about it. But I'm doing it consciously. I'm bitching about it consciously, knowing I'm just getting the victim energy out. I'm a victim to the situation. I've got all this victim energy going on about what's been going on. And I'm like, why can't I get past this spot? And once you clear it from the body, whatever it takes for you to do it, you start to get new realizations, because you raise your vibration to a point, into a different timeline where the information you've been looking for is there. And you can start to look at different time markers. And I was brought back to something that was happening to me from end of 2014 to middle of 2018. And a job I had at the time, and how long it dragged on. And I kept thinking that job went in because I really didn't enjoy it. But I was in that place for a lot of reasons. It fully supported the reality I had at the time. I was making a lot of human money, and it enabled me to work on my journey, because I didn't have to ever be in the office. I didn't have to ever be there. I didn't have that much to do. So it was a good time for me to really expand my consciousness. And I remember wanting that to end. And not because I didn't see the whole thing yet. I wanted it to end because I was tired of not doing anything. I was bored. I wanted to go on to my next thing. I wanted to be able to focus on this type of stuff. I wanted to go on to my next thing. I didn't want to stay in this job and not feel wanted. And I had all this stuff going on around this thing. And every time I thought it was going to end, this weird thing would happen and it wouldn't end. I mean, over 4 years, it was some catastrophic weird shit that happened. And after a while, you're just like, you got to be kidding me, universe. Like, you're joking. This is not even possible at this point. It was like one of those movies where you think it's going to go one way, and at the last minute, the telegram arrives and it goes a totally different way. And you're like, motherfucker, what is going on? So anyway, but it's funny because it did at some point end. And when it ended, I remember not even believing it was ending, but then I had all the fear on what was going to come next, because it had fully supported me. And without that support, what was going to support me now, right? So I had a lot of fear, more fear than I thought was going to come up when the shift finally occurred. And it was about 3.5 years. And 3 to 4 years is, I know I talk sometimes about building templates and bringing templates in, and it can be a 2 and a 2.5 year process. But I think that 2.5 year process kind of fits into that 3 to 4 year time frame, where I can look back at other things, relationships I have with people that the full thing might have been a 4-year process, but maybe I didn't meet them for 2.5 years after I first saw it in the dream state. And then it took another 1.5 years for that reality to completely play out. There's a part of that 3 to 4 years where you're getting rid clearing old templates out. You're breaking down human programming, you're getting out old programs, and you're building up your new template at the same time. So it's a lot going on because you have to break down the old before you can start building the new. And building the new takes time and breaking down the old takes time. So I found a lot of even my 2.5-year processes fit into that 3.5, 4-year time frame when I, got to these realizations where I could see that. And I was just kept getting brought back to that reality. And like you kept wanting that to end, you kept wanting that reality to end, and then it ended, and then it but then it catapulted me into the one I've been in really the last 3.5 to 4 years. I think we're in 3.5 now. And I remember that old reality that it really didn't get to an end until I was just okay with it existing forever. Like I just got to a point with that reality where I knew at some point it would have to be done. Somewhere I knew that because it was going to hold me back from what I had to do next. There was definitely limits in place there that I couldn't do the next thing if I stayed in that. So there was a part of me that knew at some point it'll be done. At some point I'm going to move on. At some point I have to move on. I can't stay in this type of thing all the time. So there's a part of me that didn't know that. But I got to this point where, and that's how you've busted through all the programming related to that situation. Because we can't close at anything when we're upset. We can't close at anything when we're angry. We can't even close out any timelines when we're frustrated. We have to close them out when we're completely at peace, or we're doomed to repeat them. So I finally got to this point where I was like, okay, whatever. Whatever, how long it lasts. It is what it is, and that's it. And once I got to that consciousness with it, it was done. Because there was nothing else for me to work out with it. And the other new template had been built. So I could now go into my next reality. Now, I didn't know at the time I was going to go through massive abundance karma clearing for the next 3.5 years. And that was going to push me in different ways a lot farther than the other reality had. Push me in so many different ways. And it was such a rough ride at some points and then beautiful ride at other points. And so many things are wrapped up in that old reality and having to move. Usually every 3 to 4 years, when you have these big things start to move out, you're going to be relocating because your body has to be put in a different place. Maybe the home you have won't support your body going forward. I need to go somewhere else. Or the next things you have to do, that you can't have the limits in place that have been in place. Now, once you start to be able to see all that, you start to see the pattern, you start to see how it's unfolded, how similar it was to something else that had unfolded, how the time markers are kind of similar. You're getting toward the end because you can start to see it. And I've said a lot of times that when you're in it, you can't really see it. You see pieces of it, but you don't see the whole thing. And that's what I learned from some of my earlier videos, that I was only seeing a piece of it because I was kind of in different stuff. And once I got out of it, now I kind of wait to do a certain video till I know I'm out of it because I can see a lot more. I can see it and I can explain it from a lot of different places because everyone's going to listen to this or is going to be in a different place. Not everyone's in the same place. A lot of people are in, most people are in different places. Some are in pre-ascension, some are in ascension, some are in embodiment. I've already ascended. Some people are in an awakening. They haven't gone through ascension yet. They haven't gone through abundance karma. They just went through abundance karma clearing, or they're in the middle of it. So a lot of our journeys are similar. They might not last as long. I think a lot of the frequencies now things go quicker. A lot of things go quicker now. And once you kind of start to understand that, until you get to complete peace, and it's funny because with this current reality that had been frustrating, it ebbed and flowed over the 3.5 years, but had been very frustrating and upsetting at a lot of different times for me. I finally got to this thing now that externally didn't look great, but I was like, whatever. It's been going on for 3.5 years. At this point, whatever. At some point it ends. I had a surgeon one time that said to me, at some point, the bleeding stops. And I just remember when he said that, it was jarring. And I'm like, yeah, when you bleed out. And it was kind of felt like the same thing. At some point it stops. At some point you bust through it because there's nothing, the bleeding has stopped in a sense. The programming is gone. It doesn't upset you anymore. You can close it out knowing, well, if it lasts forever, guess what? I've been okay for 3.5 years. I'll be okay. If this is how it lasts and this is what happens. You kind of know you're starting to get to the end of it because you're at peace with if it never changes. even though deep down you know it has to, because you also start to see the next things you have to do and know that the current reality, the current thing you've been going through, you have to move out of that at some point, and anything that's blocking you from doing that, you're going to be shown very quickly. And I've been asking that a lot lately with this, like, what is in the way? Show me what I got to do. Show me what I have to get through this. What is that last Jenga thing I got to pull out for this thing to be finished? What do I got to do now? What is that last piece for me? What's that last puzzle piece? I can't see it. And then you can. And sometimes it has to get pretty extreme. Again, all my stuff gets very extreme because it gets my attention, and only if it gets very extreme and it doesn't bother you, you've really gotten to a certain place. You're like, it doesn't even matter. None of it matters. I had someone text me about something the other day, and I was like, you know what? If that happens, guess what? Life doesn't end. Trust me. It happened for me 10 times. It was fine. We build up all these terrible things that are going to happen, and that's going to happen. We just build up all this stuff of, oh God, what if that happens? Instead of going the other way, but oh God, what if something great happens? So look at what you're able to kind of look at that 3 to 4 year nuggets of time, chunks of time. And the more conscious you become, the more you're going to be able to piece it together. Even in your human existences, you can start to see how things were kind of morphing and changing over certain points in time, and how certain cycles took. And sometimes in the human realities, the cycles are going to take longer because we're not all into the journey. Even when we're all into the journey, it still takes time because it's such a mass amount of programming that has to clear out. I know you're getting on the other side of that when you can see it. When you can see it and go, okay, this has just been part of, it's that same thing I went through before. That situation catapulted me here because it was time for me to go through this situation. And now I'm going to catapult into something else. But you also know deep down, as I said, that it can't continue because it's going to start to hamper what you got to do next. And when you start to see what you got to do next, you're like, yeah, I can't keep doing this. I mean, this is way too much energy, way too much time, and it starts to hamper you. You have to clear certain things. There are certain things you have to be shown in a lot of these processes, especially when you're in, like, I've been in a big abundance karma clearing the last 3.5 years, and you start to really appreciate money in a different way, what it's there for, and higher purposes of it. And you couldn't really be trusted with a lot of it because you would have used it and spent it the way your human used to want to do that. So you kind of learn to reevaluate all that stuff. And that took a lot of different situations to play out to be able to do that. And then then it starts to flip, and the things that you were trying to teach yourself, all of a sudden now it's a limit. Like now, if this doesn't relax, if this limit isn't lifted, if I'm going to stay in this limited reality, then I'm going to hamper what I got to do later on. I can't stay in this. It's now a limit for me of what I need to do next. It's not a teaching point anymore, because the universe will use money, twin flames, a lot of different things to teach us different things that we wouldn't get to on our own, but certain things get our attention. Health gets our attention, money gets our attention, love gets our attention. There are certain things certain keywords that kind of get our attention, and they propel us to the next thing. So we really start to appreciate things in a different way. And I'll always say, I always notice I connected more with things as I've gone through this journey because I'm connected deeper within myself. So I'm connected with everything in such a deep way. And it's this very sacred connection with everything. And I didn't have that before with other things. So you're just going to start to see that when you start getting to the end of a lot of these places that you were waiting to end, that job that you're waiting for it to end, it was finally over, that maybe that health thing you went through, I don't really like to use the word health on here, but something that pushed you and you were, okay, now that's done. Whew, I thought that would never be done. And then you might catapult into something else and you're like, well, hell, I didn't know this was on the other side. But it just means you're ready for the next thing. But that is not going to be quick either. And you just have to kind of ride with the process and say, okay, whatever. Eventually you do get to that. You get to the frustration and you get to the point and go, okay, well, it's going to be over when it's going to be over. Show me what I have to do. And you get up every day and do it. You push it across the finish line. But don't be surprised if it takes a while. So I'm going to end because it's already going to be a little long. Keep practicing the art of intuition.